Today we're working on the Haydn Divertimento, third movement from the book Solos for Young Violists by Barbara Barber. Welcome. Welcome to the studio. My name is Cassie and I'm a professional violist and teaching artist. So today we're going to do a tutorial or a walkthrough of this piece, and in the next video we'll have our slow and fast playthrough. So I'll post that one in the comments below if that's what you're looking for. It would be useful to have your music and a pencil handy. So we're going to go from the very beginning. We're going to go really slow, measure by measure, and just talk about any things that come up. So right at the beginning, I want to make sure that I'm starting low enough in the bow. It's forte and it's just an eighth note pickup, so I don't want to be starting too high in the bow. So lower in the bow to start. I want to make sure that I have a k for that accent as a start. So make sure that your bow is really engaged or sticky into the string to help create that accent. Same idea here. We want a little bit of this pronation move, or like you're turning a doorknob to help create these accents. So it's pronate, pronate. And it's going to feel a little bit like the stick and the hair come a little bit closer together. So let's see if you can see it better from this angle. And there's a little bit of a pause in between. So it'll feel like a chomp. Continuing on, same idea for this next pickup, the F sharp. Make sure that it's not too high in the bow. So that little grace note there, some people would play that as 2 16th notes, so evenly. Ta, ti, ti. I like it as a grace note, as a true grace note, right before the beat. Same idea here. We're going to make sure that this brings us to the lower half of the bow. Set, engage, chomp, chomp. Not too high in the bow here. Back to the lower half. Now here, I'm going to use that quarter note to get me to the upper half of the bow because there's a diminuendo and I want to stay at the tip. Stay at the higher part here. To the middle for these short notes, which will eventually be off the string when I'm going fast enough. So let me talk through that again. This is measure 4. I want to make sure that my bow distribution is correct here. I'm starting in the lower half, upper half to the middle. Same idea here. Bring me back to the middle for the spiccato, mid bow. So if you haven't worked on spiccato before, that's totally fine. I did make a video about that. I'll post that up here if you're struggling with that bow stroke. If you are struggling with it in the slow and the fast playthrough, you can still do it on the string. Just know that we want it to eventually be off the string. So on the string from measure 4. As slow as you can in the middle of the bow. Starting again in measure 7. Again, we don't want to slur and get to the upper half because I want to be in the optimal place for spiccato, which is the middle of the bow. So save your bow here. Mid bow. And in that measure, there's a crescendo and a diminuendo. So as I'm doing that spiccato stroke, I want to think about using more bow for the crescendo and less bow for the diminuendo. So starting in 7, mid bow, more bow, less bow. Okay, pick up to A is back to forte, so I want to make sure I'm in the lower half of the bow. Engage for that accent, and I'm going to use a combination of arm weight and bow speed. So more arm weight, faster bow speed to create that crescendo, or the accent, sorry. Triplet pickup. Accent. A little bit less here, so I'm going to stay kind of in the middle, not too close to the frog for this mezzo forte. Stay at the tip, piano. Back to the middle of the bow, and there's no dots here, so these 16th notes are on the string. Which brings us to our accents. Again, here I'm going to encourage you to use a combination of arm weight, a little bit more arm weight, and a little bit faster bow speed to create the accents. So really, we only want to hear the notes that change, the accented notes. those repeated A's as kind of non-important notes. We really just want to hear that chromatic scale, sort of chromatic scale, going upwards there. I'm going to start in measure 14. So in 16, we've got those accents and staccato notes, staccato marks. So again, it's a really fast bow speed with a complete stop in between each note. So don't let your bow kind of linger and make it into a legato note there. That's not what they want. In 16, this is the measure before B. Upper half. Now, although those notes have staccatos under a slur, they're not off the string. It's just a short or a tut, tut. So we have a clean start and a clean stop to both of those notes in the measure of B and the measure after B. The third measure after B, there's a word, simile, which means continue the same articulation that was printed before. So instead of them just printing staccato notes over every single, staccato articulations over every single note, you just want those notes all to be short, and they should be off the string if you're able to do that. And it's forte, so we're going to be in the middle of the bow, using a little bit more bow because it's louder. Short, short, half position, and I changed this to an up bow instead of 2 down bows, but you're free to do 2 down bows there if you prefer that. There is a repeat sign here, but just for the sake of the tutorial, we're going to go on to the second half, but you would do the repeat in the actual performance. So similarly here, we've got a pickup note with a staccato on it. I want to be in the lower half of the bow. Now that tenuto mark over that 4th finger means to hold it for the full value, but a little bit of space between the A and the following G sharp. So that pickup note is, same idea there, it's a little chomp, chomp for those 2 accents. The next entrance is an echo of that, so you want to make sure that you're using less bow, less arm weight. So this is the, just so you can hear the contrast, this is the pickup to C. Short there, and then middle of the bow. Low 4. So here, this is a fingering that is a little bit convoluted because your fingers are crossing one over the other. It can be a little bit uncomfortable, but there's no way we have enough time to hop our 3rd finger from a regular, quote unquote, regular 3rd finger to a high 3rd finger. So they want you to use a low 4. So yes, your fingers look a little bit like pretzels across the string, but that's what we want there. So 3 stays down, 4 hops over to the G string. So let's start right from that pickup, that piano pickup, middle of the bow, but not a lot of arm weight. Leave 3 down, leave 1 down, and 2 crosses over. So it's the same idea. It's those fingers, 1 crossing over the other, but leave your 1 down. That will help. This is measure 26. Cross 2. And I use a low 1 instead of an extended 4, but just know that you have both options. So that run up could be from the F sharp 2, high 3, high 4, regular 1, low 2, or it could be 2, high 3, low 1, regular 1, low 2. So whichever one works better for your hand. I just think for me, when it goes faster, using the low 1 just feels a little bit easier. So I'm starting from measure 27. These are right in the middle of the bow, and we're working on getting a crescendo. So more arm weight, more bow speed as the crescendo continues on. So in measure 28, just be really careful. It's a high 3 on the A string, but a regular 3 on the D string, and it's still high. Low 2, regular 2. Pick up to D has me shifting to 3rd position. Now anytime you see a number indicated with a line, that means you want to hold down that finger. So in this case it's a 4. Leave it down until the line stops. So instead of picking up my 4 here and having to re-find it, I'm going to leave it down. It's way easier. down a half step and leave that 4 down. So effectively, we're in high second position here. And if you're not familiar with second position, you might need to stop the video and just work that out a little bit. But just know that the finger placement for when we're in third position from the G to the G is going to be slightly wider than the finger placement from the F sharp to the F sharp, and as we go down. So tighter here, more broad here, or a little bit wider, even wider here, low one, middle of the bow. So in measure 32, that's the measure that I just passed. I want to make sure that I'm leaving my first finger down when possible. So as soon as I get to that 1, on the A, I want to make sure that I've got the 5th covered. So when I put that A down, it's also covering the D string because I don't have time to hop there. So from the C sharp, 1 covers both strings and it stays down. Let me show you that a little bit closer up from the same spot from the C sharp. So that 1 is going to just stay down. All right, that brings us to measure 33. There's a lot going on in this measure. We have a poco ritardando on those 8th notes, so that means a little bit of a slowdown. We've got a fermata, which means you can hold it as long as you want. The standard is usually to double the note and add a beat. And then we've got ricochet, ad lib. Ricochet is a tossed bow stroke, and ad lib means as you like it. So however you would like to do that ricochet. Some people might just want to bounce one bow and do all the other ones on the string. Some people might want to bounce all of them. I start out tossing the bow. It's always a toss across the string, not into the string. And as many bounces as I can get, great. The rest of it, I just finish on the string. So we're going to practice that a couple different ways. So from 33, we've got a little slow down, retake. You're going to aim for the middle. And the way I would practice this is I'm going to build the scale up 1 note at a time with that ricochet stroke. So I have a firm bow hold, not a squeeze here, it's just firm. I like to compare it to Jell-O. Jell-O's still got a little bit of wiggle to it. You don't want a block of ice here. So I'm going to have a firm bow hold about 1 inch above the string, and I'm going to toss across and try to hit 1 note. Okay, so that was my A. Now I want A, B, A, B, C sharp, A, B, C sharp, D, add the next note E, add the next note F sharp, next note G, next note A, B, C sharp, and then you've got the whole thing. And it's an up bow on the downbeat of E. If that ricochet bow stroke is difficult for you, do not try to combine it with the scale. You're just going to try it on an open string. So let me show you facing this way so you can see what my bow hold's doing a little bit better. So firm bow hold here, think across the string. And it's going to feel firm when you hit the string as well. So don't loosen up on your bow hold once you hit the string. You try crossing strings. Now, I say firm for your bow hold intentionally. If your bow hold is too tight or if it's too grippy, your bow can't bounce or it'll bounce out of control. So this is me squeezing the bow. It's just not going to go anywhere, right? You'll get a bounce, but it's not what we want. So it's finding that the correct level of firmness for your bow hold where it's still going to allow the bow to bounce. Once the bow starts bouncing, it's kind of like a basketball. You don't want to impede or try to make that bounce, or try to control the bounce. You just want it to let it go. So just let the bow do its thing once it's bouncing. I'm also feeling a little bit in the callus of my pointer finger. That's where my pointer finger contacts the stick. I'm feeling it's that slight pronation that we had for the spiccato stroke earlier. That very slight turning the doorknob feeling. So hopefully that helps you with the spiccato. It's definitely an advanced skill. If you get to that part in the piece and you have to perform it and the ricochet is just not happening, you can feel free to do it on the string because it says ricochet ad lib. So maybe I don't want to do ricochet that at all and I just want to be on the string. and it's going to be kind of a stop-starty scale all the way up there. So there's a few options for that spot. Continuing at E, this is our recapitulation, or this is the same as the beginning. So same ideas here. Firm, chomp, chomp, up bow, to the tip, middle bow, mid bow, second position, staying in second position, up bow again, and this is the minor. So your 1 that was on F sharp is now going to be on F natural. So you have to move it backwards a half step. So this is the pick up to F again. Lower 1, and then that's a low 4. Shift to third position. It's the same note, and we're going to aim to be in the middle of the bow. And just a reminder, your dynamic here is piano. First position. And then the same idea as we had in the beginning where we had those accents, we want to hear the changing note and not the D's. So really we want to hear. So let's start from measure 45 so we can get that. Half position and then shift up. Start your trill from 2. Quiet here. Shift to third position. If you're not comfortable with treble clef, this would be what third finger on the A string usually is. That note is D, E, F sharp, D. First position, C sharp. And then we're back to alto clef here. So this is the same idea where it says simile, where we are going to eventually be off the string. So from the treble clef, set your 1s, break, set your 1s. So when we've got a chord that is 4 notes and we need fingers on all of the notes, you're going to break your bow. So it's the bottom 2 strings, top 2 strings. And again, I made this an up bow, down bow. You can do a down bow if that's what your preference is. I am releasing my 1s when I break to the top. Because for me to hold it down is quite uncomfortable and I'm not going to get the top of the chord in tune. So I'm practicing those chords, setting my 1s, dropping, setting my 2 and my 3. Setting my 1s, 2, 3. And when that becomes a little bit more fluid, then I want that break in between the lower 2 strings and the upper 2 strings to be a little bit less. So that was a really quick run through of some of the things you're going to encounter in this piece. If I didn't cover something that you're wondering about, post that in the comments below. And also, if you would like, I have it's a conversion chart between treble clef and alto clef. If you would like that, post that in the comments or send me a private message. I'm happy to share that paper with you. In the next video, we're going to do our slow playthrough and our fast playthrough of this piece. So I hope this was really helpful. And until that video, happy practicing.